Day, banned again.
AFR programs are now live streaming on the AFA streaming app. Now you can get shows like Today's Issues straight from the source.
Put back on the next.
Just say unbanned.
Unbanned.
Just search AFA Streaming or visit streaming.afa.net to sign up. Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues on American Family Radio. Thanks for listening to AFR on this Monday, March the 18th, 2024. And joining me in the studio is Ed Battagliano. Good morning, Brother Ed.
Good morning, Tim.
And Fred Jackson. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm noting we all have winter sweaters on today.
Yeah,
Pulled mine back out.
we had we're having a 1 or 2 day don't forget me winter moment, right?
Freeze warning for this evening.
Yes, for where we live. Where is it? What is that? I'm sure that's going on across the country, right?
Well, down through the south especially.
Yeah, but we have freeze warning once it gets 52. 52, they start issuing freeze warnings for you bunch of Southerners, weenies. Let's see. All right, so the weather is, but it's going to improve. At least and again, I think this is across the country. But I mean, 51 today, 28 tonight. 60 tomorrow, 74 on Wednesday, and then back to the 60s and 70s for the most part. So, what is it in Nova Scotia? Let me type in your hometown. What's your hometown?
Well, Halifax is the capital. That's pretty close.
Halifax, Canada. Let's see what Halifax, Canada's got going on. You know it's 45 there? It's 46 here in Tupelo, and it's 45 in Halifax.
That's right.
Wow.
Yeah, but last weekend it was snowing in Halifax.
Yeah.
Well, you got us there.
I'm looking at Halifax. It ain't gonna. Springtime ain't there yet.
Oh no. Oh no.
It's 40, 35, 25. Anyway,
I'm not exaggerating. There have been winters in Nova Scotia, and I'm from the eastern part of Nova Scotia, Cape Breton Island, where there has been snow on the mountains in early June.
In the mountains.
Yep.
Isn't it a song, Snow on the Mountains, Run Boy Run? Or is that Fire on the Mountain? I think it's Fire on the Mountain. Run, somebody run. Y'all don't know what I'm talking about?
I vaguely recall
Devil's
that.
in the House of the Rising Sun. You don't remember this?
I do. Now that you keep adding stuff
Was that
to
Charlie
it,
Daniels? Was that Charlie Daniels? Okay.
Brent Creeley, our resident expert on country music.
But
He's our producer.
that wasn't Devil Goes Down to Georgia. There's two different songs, right?
La, 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 la.
The same song?
Run, boy, run.
Okay, you remember that? Was
Yeah.
it Run Boy Run?
I don't know, whatever it was.
Yeah. Anyway, all right.
I was a rock and roller. You know.
You were doing
Boston,
Led Zeppelin
yeah.
and Boston back
Yeah.
in the day, huh? Back way back in the day.
My favorite in high school, my favorite group was Kiss.
Yeah.
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 What did your parents go along with that? Okay, were they okay?
My dad just kind of ignored. As long as I didn't grow my hair long,
Right.
and as long as I stayed away from that hippie weed.
Yeah. He let you have a little kiss.
Yeah, he of course, my bedroom was upstairs. All our bedrooms were upstairs. We had a split, 2-level house, and he was down in the TV room while I was doing my homework or whatever,
Right.
and watching TV. But if he had to come upstairs for something, and I had my stereo blasting,
Right.
boom, boom, boom on the door, turn that down. that noise or something. Yes, sir. No, we actually didn't say yes, sir, no, ma'am, or anything like that. I'd say, yeah, okay.
All right. Well, listen, we hope everybody had a nice weekend. And spring is officially here, by the way, fellas.
Is it?
You know that? Yeah.
Today?
The 21st, right?
Yeah. I mean, the whatever determines the spring actually being here, the equinox.
Spring equinox, yeah.
The equinox, you know.
Equinox.
Well, the equinox, they migrated south, and now we know that spring is here. Spring is officially here. And wasn't yesterday St. Patrick's Day?
Yes.
It was.
Yes.
So that,
Yep.
sometimes St. Patrick's Day marks the official, uh
We measure spring at our house with hummingbirds.
huh.
I think it's tomorrow.
My wife tracks them
Okay.
coming back from the south,
Okay.
and they're in the neighborhood now.
What is?
Okay.
Hummingbirds.
Oh, hummingbirds.
Yes,
Where have they been?
down in Mexico.
Oh,
Yeah, they
Vaca-
pack their bags. in the fall.
vacationing in Mexico. The hummingbirds.
That's right.
I
What-
love
what-
it when the hummingbirds come back. I let loose all my pet praying mantises. That's an inside joke,
Yeah.
folks. For
And
you.
Go ahead, cats. Get there.
My wife loves. I do too. The hummingbirds. She puts out the feeders.
Uh-huh.
I just sit in my recliner sometimes and just watch them smash into one another.
I
It's, if like there's no hockey game on, I'll just
Do they
watch.
wrestle like that?
They'll bump chests.
They're
like
very
Full
aggressive.
speed.
Well,
You know, you can have these feeders with
Yeah.
about 4 different troughs on them,
Right.
and they all fight over one.
There's a bully.
Yeah.
And I'll watch him. He'll sit in the tree, and then if another hummingbird comes over, he zips on over to chase
Yeah.
him off.
Oh, I know.
but if their wings clash, it's trouble.
Clash
Yeah,
of
no.
the wings.
The clash of the. I'm telling you, those wings going 1,000 miles an hour,
Yeah.
1,000 flaps a second, whatever it is.
It's amazing.
All right, Fred, what's happening in the world here?
Well, let's
Morning.
go to the Supreme Court, where the United States Supreme Court hearing arguments today in a lawsuit filed by Louisiana, Missouri. And this is quite interesting, folks, because it goes back to COVID days when social media was restricting any opposing points of view to what the Biden administration was putting out. And we're all familiar with that. And Missouri Senator Eric Schmidt talks a little bit about what this case is really all about. Cut number 7.
It's the most important free speech case in our lifetime because it involves some of the highest ranking government officials in our country colluding and coercing with some of the biggest social media companies in the world to suppress millions of posts. Some of them wanted to kind of take some of these down, but there were instances where they were actually pushing back and the government said, do it or else.
Yeah, it's, as I say, we all know examples of certain treatments that were mentioned, and the government's used, the allegation is at least, and I think there's some proof, going to social media and saying, take that down, take that down. Of course, people were bumped off of YouTube and other social media for even mentioning it on the air.
Yeah, if this is true, and I think it is, but if the government was forcing social media companies to do its bidding, the government's bidding, to suppress speech that is different from the Biden administration, it is clearly unconstitutional. But what we've also been seeing, now this is before the Supreme Court, right?
Mhm.
So hopefully the court will vote to protect free speech, because you sure can't rely on the Biden administration to police itself. That administration and the people on the far left who are now running the Democratic Party will do whatever they can get away with.
Mm-hmm.
And if the Supreme Court does not rein them in, free speech in this country really is in jeopardy.
Remember when we were afraid to say ivermectin?
It got, as far as we know, that's what got us bounced off YouTube.
Yeah.
Because we had a discussion about doctors saying ivermectin helps if you've got COVID.
Yes.
Now, I will say this. YouTube never would officially tell us what it was, but Brent Creeley, our producer, you were in contact with YouTube at the time, and they said only that we had violated their community standards.
Community guidelines.
Community guidelines, but they did say which particular day's program was the culprit, didn't they? You remember?
Not back then, but this latest go around we had with YouTube, they did.
Okay.
So back then, when all that was going on in 2020,
Mm.
they wouldn't specify anything.
Okay.
They just say you violated community standards.
Yeah.
So we're pretty sure
Yes.
that the discussion we had on a certain day
Mhm.
was what pushed them over the edge. So
And that's what's scary. I mean, we mentioned what Trudeau did in Canada with the truckers dispute.
right,
They had unacceptable views,
yes,
and that's pretty scary in a country that treasures free speech to be told, we're not even going to allow your opinion and we will punish you, because what Trudeau did basically is we're going after your bank accounts
right.
because we don't like your point of view.
Froze them, right?
Yes, yes. And this is the kind of thing. And so we're going to be watching this case before the Supreme Court. I assume they will render a decision by June on this. But this is because a lot of people think there's another COVID like era that's coming. Somebody was mentioning on the weekend about measles being the next one. That's a possibility.
Well, the World Health Organization has been, and other health organizations, most of which connected to the United Nations, have been warning about like virus X.
Mm-hmm.
And so it looks like they are now. I understand that health organizations want to make sure if another virus or bacterial outbreak was dangerous. I'm okay with having plans in place. How do we deal with it?
Mm-hmm.
And so I understand that when they say virus X, they mean we don't know what it'll be, but it will be something someday. But there are people, and I no longer think of these folks as conspiracy nuts. There are people who are very anxious about the World Health Organization, other UN agencies being given by the Biden administration control over our response.
Yes.
Now, I don't think that's a conspiracy theory. I think the Biden administration would do that even without Senate approval if they could get away with it.
Yep. And we are told that a possible final vote, World Health Organization, the Biden administration being willing to give them that authority that they decide how to handle a pandemic.
Right.
That vote is coming up as early as May, just a couple of months away.
Well, listen, the World Health Organization, other organizations can suggest all they want. There is no way I think the majority of Americans in this country are willing to cede national sovereignty to an international organization. But the Bidens are globalists.
Yes.
But the Biden administration, his administration, filled with these globalist, this globalist ilk.
All right, next story, Fred.
Well, I think evangelical Christians who support Israel were absolutely shocked late last week when Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who is the oldest serving Jewish individual in Congress, got up in the Senate and condemned Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and called for new elections in Israel. It was shocking what he said. Here's a little bit of Chuck Schumer from last week, cut 4.
Prime Minister Netanyahu has lost his way by allowing his political survival to take the precedence over the best interests of Israel. 5 months into this conflict, it is clear that Israelis need to take stock of the situation and ask, must we change course? At this critical juncture, I believe a new election is the only way to allow for a healthy and open decision-making process about the future of Israel.
I was shocked, and so were many who support, to have Chuck Schumer, the Senate Majority Leader. You talk about election interference. Here is Benjamin Netanyahu, who is quarterbacking this war against Hamas terrorists who massacred more than 1,200 Israeli men, women, and children. And in the middle of all of this, because Benjamin Netanyahu is not playing the game that the Biden administration wants him to play, he is fighting terrorists. And by the way, he has the Israeli people behind him. But Schumer suggesting that Netanyahu has lost his way and the Israeli people ought to call for an election right now in the midst of all of this. It was amazing.
Yeah. Do we have the response from?
We do.
Okay.
You do.
We're gonna hear now the response by Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, to Chuck Schumer's call for a new election, basically called to get rid of Netanyahu. Let's hear that.
I think what he said is totally inappropriate. It's inappropriate for to go to a sister democracy and try to replace the elected leadership there. That's something that the Israeli public does on its own, and we're not a banana republic. And as far as what Senator Schumer said, the majority of Israelis support our governments. 82% of Americans support Israel instead of Hamas.
From the President of the United States, he called what Schumer said a good speech. He said that he shared the concern of many Americans. They aren't criticizing Israel. They're criticizing you and your right-wing coalition.
Dana, there's a fallacy that is being perpetrated here. And you should take polls. You'll have your own polls. Most Israelis overwhelmingly support the position that we have to go in. And I'll tell you the other fallacy is. They're saying, well, most Palestinians don't support the Hamas massacre. In fact, 85% of the Palestinians do support, unfortunately, the Hamas massacre. No, look, that's something for the Israeli people to decide. I think it's ridiculous to talk about it.
That was Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel. Well, like you're saying, here's Chuck Schumer, a Jew.
Yes.
Who is the Senate Majority Leader, a very powerful position, taking a position publicly. He was speaking in the Senate floor. Israel needs new elections. They need new leadership, basically, is what he's saying. They voted no confidence by the Senate Majority Leader against Benjamin Netanyahu. It's over the tactical decisions of the Israeli government, led by Netanyahu, on how to best remove Hamas. And you know what? I would like to hear from from Schumer and these others who are Hamas apologists, is what I would call them. First thing I'd like to hear from them is, I demand that Hamas release all the hostages immediately. Then we can begin to discuss a possible ceasefire. But until such time, a ceasefire is a non-starter. What? So there's no. It doesn't seem to me like there's any call for Hamas to stop doing anything. It's the burden's all on Israel by these people. Is that what?
Yeah, and people like Schumer, and frankly now Joe Biden, who's come under intense pressure from the far left in his party. He's far left too, but there's absolutely no pressure being put on Hamas. Nobody's saying anything about what you just said. Release the hostages. How about Hamas? Lay down your arms.
Right, surrender.
How about Hamas? Step down from power in Gaza. Give it to some other group, and then agree that Israel has a right to exist.
Yeah.
And then the fighting can stop.
Right.
But Schumer isn't saying that.
Yeah, he's just putting all the burden on Israel.
You know what? What if Benjamin Netanyahu, in response, said, after Joe Biden's comments, said, you know what? I think Joe Biden has lost his marbles.
Right.
I'm calling on the American people to defeat Joe Biden in November.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do you think Schumer and the others would do? There'd be outrage on the left.
Right. Quit interfering with American elections.
Rightfully so.
Yes.
Right. But here we are, a Senate Majority Leader. What amazes me again, the Jews on the left, and most of them are, they seem to be self-loathing. I don't get it.
Yep.
Really.
Mm-hmm.
They seem to be as opposed to Israel as much as the non-Jews. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But I think what happened on October the 7th has even brought some of those more liberal Jews to the side of it. They understand that if Israel agrees to an extended ceasefire right now, what will happen? It just gives Hamas an opportunity to reform. I mean, like you say, the hostages, why not demand that all hostages be released and Israel says we'll back away?
Right.
But that's not even on the table.
Yeah.
Now, John Fetterman is from Pennsylvania, the senator.
Yes.
Isn't he Jewish?
I'm not sure if he's Jewish, but he is a defender of Israel.
But he came out in defense of Israel's actions.
Yeah.
So there are some in the Democratic Party who see things clearly, I think.
Well, the other problem in the Democratic Party, and some people are saying Schumer did this to appease the pro-Palestinian side, the Rashida Tlaibs and others. The Democratic Party has an internal anti-Israel problem right now. And Schumer was addressing this. Biden endorsed Schumer's speech. He endorsed, within hours after that speech, Biden endorsed that speech.
Yeah, Biden is trying to he's trying to ride the fence. He's going more to the pro-Hamas, pro-ceasefire side with his comments. At first he was initially at first, same thing, supportive of Israel in their response to the massacre that took place on October the 7th.
Yes.
October the 7th, right?
October 7th.
October the 7th. But almost after day 1, day 2, day 3, he began to backpedal because of the pressure from people within his own party. So we'll see where this goes. But Schumer, that's stunning. He's calling for new elections in Israel. And like you said, Fred, what if Benjamin Netanyahu said Biden needs to step down? We need a new leadership in the U.S.
Or any Democratic leader in the world said this about Joe Biden.
Right.
The outcry, the media in the United States would go ballistic.
Right. Quit messing with American elections.
John Fetterman is not Jewish, according to this Newsmax.
But he is very pro-Israel.
But he's very pro-Israel.
Yeah.
Very pro-Israel. And he's very pro-hoodie.
Yes,
too.
he is.
Huh?
Hoodie and shorts.
Hoodie and shorts.
Can expect to see the.
You're listening
Pennsylvania
to
Senator.
Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Tim, Ed, and Fred. Thank you for listening. You guys been paying attention to what's happening in Haiti?
Oh.
Yeah.
It's ugly. Talk about a blood.
Haiti is an island in the Caribbean. Well, it's half an island.
Mm-hmm.
Because the island itself is separated by the Dominican Republic on one side and the Haiti on the other side. Well, Haiti has become they're the poorest nation in the Western Hemisphere. So poverty has been there forever, and they change, quote, governments a lot because of the coups that take place. But now it's just the wild, wild west over there. You got, I don't know how many millions of people live in Haiti. Any idea what the population is there in Haiti? But it's
I'll
just
shut up.
Anyway, refugees from Haiti are going
11.5 million
people
in 2021.
All right, the Florida is worried because they're going to see more Haitians now on rafts and makeshift boats.
Yeah.
Trying to make it to the U.S.
Yeah.
Because of the political violence that exists in Haiti. Let me ask you this: would this not be a real situation of asylum, political asylum, under normal circumstances? When you have
Yes, that's traditionally what asylum is. I'm not sure if anyone fleeing a civil war. I think you are allowed to ask for asylum. I do know for sure if you can demonstrate that you yourself are in danger by being politically targeted, you can usually get asylum. I'm talking about the old rules before Joe Biden went into office. So I'm honestly not sure if you can just say I'm fleeing a civil war and I want to.
Is the U.S. under any obligation to take everybody?
No, that's why they're supposed to go before these judges, and they are.
What do you do in the interim?
Well, I think you're supposed to wait. You can't enter. Used to be you couldn't enter the country, and until you had your hearing, and then yes or no, and then you'd have to go back.
I know, but do you wait in a boat off the coast?
No, I think they had
holding places.
I think they had places that you could. But it wasn't like thousands like we're talking about now. Even under Trump, they had to wait in Mexico before their hearing so they could be told, yes, you can, no, you can't.
All right, you're listening to Today's Issues, to the program Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. A lot more to talk about. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back momentarily. Stay with us.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
There once lived a man who thought of himself as a pretty good fella. He didn't drink too much, run around too much, hate his brother too much, steal too much, lie too much, or do anything else too much. He did all of these things in moderation. You see, it was his theory that everything was all right in the proper dosage. One day this man died. After a period of sleep, the man awoke. He found that he was in a strange place, but it seemed to be such a nice place. Ah, he said to himself, so this is what it's like here. Real nice indeed. Looking around, he saw that everything was so beautiful. He noticed that he was resting in a most comfortable bed, and that others were doing the same. Looking to the side of the bed, he noticed a man standing there who was dressed in a uniform. He asked the man who he was. "I am your servant," the man replied. "Whatever you want, it is my job to supply it." "Man, that's great," exclaimed the man who had died. "Hey, this is real living. Say, servant, how about bringing me a little bottle of booze? Don't bring me a big bottle, just a little one. I don't like to get tight, you know, just feeling good." Well, in a flash of time, the servant handed the man his bottle of booze. "Say, servant," added the man after getting the booze, "how about bringing me a dame to go with the bottle? I never like to drink alone." In an instant, his wish was fulfilled. When he asked for some soft music in the background, his wish was immediately granted, and the air was filled with beautiful music. Well, it continued like this for the man day after day, day after day. When he ordered to smoke, he had no more than gotten the order out of his mouth until it was fulfilled. When he ordered something to eat or drink or wear, it was instantly provided. Whatever his wish, it was fulfilled immediately. After about a week of living in his new environment, one day the man made a startling discovery. And after making his discovery, he made this statement: "Man, this is heaven. Real heaven. Just think, everything I ever wanted. And I did pretty well what I wanted to do on earth. I pity those poor, stupid fools who think they have to live like a preacher or something in order to get here. They're missing it on earth. They could really live it up on earth if they only knew that they could still get here anyway." So on and on went the pleasure of the man who died. Day after day, week after week, month after month. After living like this for several months, he became disgusted. Soon he became completely disgusted when all of his wishes were fulfilled and none refused. He begged the servant to refuse a wish, but the servant would not. Finally, he turned to another man who had died and remarked, "You know, if I had known it was going to be like this here, I would have rather gone to hell." The other man responded, "And where do you think you are?" Heaven, you see, isn't getting everything we want.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
Jesus said, "Let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these." Matthew 19:14.
American Family Radio. This is Today's Issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of Today's Issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of Today's Issues.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Tim, Ed, and Fred. Hey, our spiritual heritage tours are filling up. So if you want to go with us this year, you need to get on board. So the trips are to D.C. and George Washington's Mount Vernon. We see all the sights of our nation's capital. And then we're also going to go to Williamsburg, Jamestown, and Yorktown on a separate trip. The trips are back-to-back. The tours are back-to-back if you want to do both. Some people, fly from around the country and they want to do the whole week with us. We'll take care of you for the whole week if you'd like to do both of those tours. So that's in June and September. For all the information, the itinerary, the cost, everything you need to know, the website is spiritualheritagetours.com. Again, we're filling up for this year. We got them in June and September. If you would like to go with us, I host them with my wife Allison, our sons, and then Stephen and Beth McDowell of the Providence Foundation go as well. Spiritual Heritage Tours with an S.com is the website. Tim, Ed, and Fred, we thank you for listening to American Family Radio. We were just talking before the break about the chaos that's happening in Haiti. And you guys said, how many people live there?
It's almost 11.5 million. That was in 2021. I'm not sure how often they do a census, but.
And now Florida is bracing for a lot of boats coming with people desperate to leave Haiti because of the political violence. They're trying to make it to the shores of Florida. I don't know what happens to them then, but I've heard Governor DeSantis talking about this as well.
Turn them back is what they're trying to do as far as Florida goes.
Where do you turn them back to?
You just don't let as soon as my understanding is if they put a foot on the shore, that they have to let them stay. But if they catch them offshore,
they escort them back or something?
Escort them back, I guess. But there is a Haitian-related story in the news right now. A 26-year-old Haitian that was brought into the country a couple of months ago under President Biden's controversial what's called the CHNV parole program. That stands for Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. Remember we talked about this, that the Biden administration flying thousands of people into the country?
Right.
Well, this one guy who's been identified as Corey Alvarez, 26-year-old Haitian, is now charged with raping a teen at a Massachusetts hotel that was housing migrants, charged last week. So we're just going to hear more and more about this. There are now several incidents in this country where those who have entered the country illegally, or in this case being brought in under this refugee program, are now facing charges. In this case, it's rape, but there are murder charges. Of course, we heard the horrible case in Georgia just in the last few weeks, but there's some other jurisdictions now that are dealing with these illegals. This is an absolutely huge election issue for the Biden administration. They're still trying to waltz away from this, trying to blame the Republicans for not going along with Biden's proposals, this bill that he wants more money for border security. But, you know, Ed, I just feel that the American people, they have knowledge now of what's going on. They have seen what's happened at our southern border for the last 3 years. And they have seen, this is hard to believe, millions streaming into this country.
More than 7 million.
More than 7 million streaming into this country. And they know under former President Trump, he had executive orders in place that stopped this. And now Joe Biden, in his first days in office in 21, lifted all of those executive orders, opened the gates. Everybody remembers that during the debates prior to 2020, that Joe Biden promised he would invite a surge at the border. That was his terms. I invite a surge at the border. Well, he orchestrated, Joe Biden orchestrated an invasion of this country.
Yeah, and when I say 7 million, that may be our best guess. Nobody really knows how many have come across that border. Look, the Biden administration is going to have a very difficult time making the accusations stick that this is the fault of the Republicans, because Donald Trump, that was one of his major campaign issues in 2016, all right? I think most people understand the Democrats did not give him what he needed in terms of building the wall. And then when Trump's policies got reversed, first couple of days of the Biden administration, it's dawning on everyone that the situation on the border dramatically changed, that this is going to fall in the lap of Joe Biden. When we're talking about these cases that have hit the news of these some of these illegals who have committed murders, heinous crimes like rape. I don't think we have the actual numbers of how many of these are being committed by those who have come across our border illegally. Some of this, a lot of this is probably happening in blue states who aren't going to keep track on who's quote unquote illegal and who isn't because they don't like using that terminology. There's no telling how many of these kinds of heinous crimes have been
Hey,
committed.
the other day that I'm sorry, I interrupt you.
That was it.
The other day that Joe Biden said he takes back using the term illegal. Remember that he said
Right.
He apologized.
He used the term illegal during the State of the Union address. He got in trouble by the media and the left, and he said, "I'm sorry, I meant undocumented. Should have used the word undocumented." My question is, what does undocumented mean? Huh? Doesn't it mean the same thing as illegal?
It does, except that the left continues to use as their defense of the Biden administration's policy. They say no human being is illegal, which is it's a ridiculous argument. All right, they're implying that when you say illegal alien or illegal immigrant, that you're somehow saying they're subhuman. Nobody's saying that. We're saying they arrived here illegally, but the whole premise behind the left's push to allow unfettered immigration into this country is we've got to help the poor of the world. That's why they say they're not illegal. These are suffering human beings, so let them in.
They're trying to take away the stigma of being here illegally.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So you change the terminology. In fact, I found myself, I used to call them people here illegal aliens.
Right.
Which is the true definition.
Yeah.
They're aliens who are here in our country illegally. That doesn't mean they're not human.
Right.
And now you can't even, undocumented is unacceptable anymore. You must call them migrants.
Yes.
And migrants alone. That's the only terminology that the left will allow. So I find myself falling prey to that change in verbiage as well. I mean, after you hear it time and time again, that's their point. That's what they want.
Well, and undocumented makes it sound like, well, it's just an oversight. I let my driver's license lapse.
Therefore, I'm undocumented.
Yeah, I'm undocumented. And that takes the focus off the fact that they came into this country breaking the law, and they should be sent back.
Yeah, when you say somebody's here and they're undocumented, like you're saying, the implication is my documents are at home in the dresser drawer.
Yes, that's right.
I
forgot them.
I forgot them. Therefore, I'm undocumented. But otherwise, I'm legal.
Right.
So, a lot hinges on the election in the fall. About what kind of priority it is to the American people that the Democrats have decided to allow millions of people to come here. And are they going to allow? If they don't suffer at the ballot box in the fall, then floodgates are going to be open.
Then we're
even
toast.
The floodgates are going to be open even further.
Yeah.
We talk about this, the border issue, but I just mentioned a moment ago when talking about Haiti, this Biden administration CHNV parole program, which stands for Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. Guys, listen to this. This program, the CHNV program, allows up to 30,000 people each month. 30,000 people each month from these countries to fly into the U.S. and be granted 2 years of humanitarian parole, which allows them to apply to work in the U.S. 30,000 a month. This is in addition to the border. 30,000 being flown at taxpayer expense from these countries every month.
And they can apply to work, but they don't have to.
Yeah.
Right? They would receive welfare payments.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm going to put my hands over my ears, and I'm just going. I don't want to hear anymore because this is insanity, and it's going to lead to the destruction of our country if it continues. And so, and the left-wing media, they're fostering this. Then you got the hard left who don't believe in borders at all. And anyway, all right, next story, Fred.
Well, we'll talk about former President Trump, what he was up to this weekend. he was in Ohio campaigning there. There's a primary there tomorrow, but the focus mainly is on the Senate race within the Republican Party. But in a speech there, when he was campaigning in Ohio, former President Trump talked about if he is elected, he is going to stop the importation of all kinds of vehicles built in Mexico with Chinese sponsorship. All right. So he said, if I'm elected, I'm going to put a 100% tariff on these cars coming in from Mexico. And he said, if I'm not elected, there's going to be a bloodbath. And the context was in the auto industry. So have a listen to what he had to say as cut number 2. And then we'll come back with audio of how the mainstream media interpreted what the former president said. Cut number 2.
Let me tell you something to China. If you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us now, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole. That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country.
All right, that's what he had to say. Bloodbath in connection with the auto industry. He doesn't get elected, the auto industry in this country is going to be decimated. That's what he was saying. Now listen to what the mainstream media did with that speech. Cut 1.
What I heard was a continuation of the same rhetoric, the same endorsement of political violence that we've seen from Donald Trump for years, as you pointed out. It goes even farther back.
We are all desensitized and inured to the extraordinary, remarkable, and very, at times, un-American and threatening things that the former president is saying.
We can't take him, look at what he's saying and think, oh, well, we're going to be accurate for this. We're going to say he was referring to the auto industry.
That last part just shook me. We can't interpret it correctly. We have to interpret it as meaning there's going to be an actual bloodbath if Donald Trump is reelected.
Well, who was the first person? Do you know the first voice afterwards? Anyways, one of the people in the media.
Yes.
It was very telling that he said, what I heard him say was, parentheses, violence in the streets. That is an honest statement. That's what people on the left hear because that is their perception of what Donald Trump is all about political violence. And it was clear from anyone who listened to that part of the speech that he was talking about the economic bloodbath and the destruction of the auto industry because you can't have Chinese vehicles being produced in Mexico, not paying U.S. workers, and then expect to undersell the vehicles being produced here in this country. And that's clear. And if these people were honest, they would have said so.
I agree with you fellers on that one. He was talking about economically. He wasn't talking about violence in the streets. There was the former President Trump, when he used the expression bloodbath. Let me ask you this about, I don't know exactly all the details of what he's talking about. I didn't know that, I was unaware that, so China is manufacturing cars in Mexico?
I think that is the plan, isn't it?
What is a Chinese car? What's it called?
I don't know. I have no idea. That's
the first I heard of that. That's
when President Trump mentioned that was the first thing. I know they have a big belt, what they call the Belt and Road Initiative, where China is trying to, by spending money in countries, they're trying to bring their influence, carry their influence around.
Well, type it in, see what you get there from Mr. Google.
Okay.
Ed, I didn't know China made cars. I mean, that they sold internationally.
Okay, so this, okay.
Say, you can trust Google. Just read
so
it.
I don't know what this website is, El País Inglés. So vehicles manufactured in China are accelerating their pace in the Mexican market. So that's different. 20% of the light vehicles sold last year in the Latin American country of Mexico were imported.
Well, okay, go ahead.
So, cars made in Mexico by Chinese companies. I'm trying to look for a name of what these cars are called. Wow, President Trump was very blunt later on in
What'd he
his
say?
speech. I can't say it. You, well, you screw us and we'll screw you, he said. I guess that's ugly,
said-
but I
He
don't
said
guess
that
that's
to the
that's
talking
not
about to the
obscene.
Chinese.
Yeah.
What? Anyway,
I can't find a name of the company that this would be done under.
I just having a little bit of a difficulty understanding the difference between doing that and China selling us all kind of other products every day, all day. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't buy tennis shoes not made in China.
Well, that's true.
What's the difference between that and a car?
Well, the car industry is probably who
We already buy cars from Japan and Germany,
but they're made. But a
Not
lot of
all
them are
of
made in. Yeah, but a lot of them are made in this country.
Yes, Hondas, Toyotas, they're made in this country. I think, you know, there's the political edge here is that Trump claims that even in 2020, even though the auto union people endorsed Biden, Trump argues that he is getting the workers in the plants.
Right.
And his argument is that the auto industry in this country and those jobs are going to be decimated unless something is done with cars made offshore, in this case, Mexico.
Gotcha. All right, you're listening to today's issues on American Family Radio. But the main point of that story is that the word bloodbath, which Trump used, is talking about economic bloodbath. If he's not elected, he wasn't talking about violence in the streets, although that's what the mainstream media is trying to make it out to be.
Yes.
You're listening to today's issues on American Family Radio. Listen, sometimes and oftentimes Trump's language gets him in trouble. It's not fair, okay? Oftentimes, we've documented that many times. When he says, "I want to be dictator, but just for one day," okay? When he says that, okay, that's going to be how you think the left and the media is going to take that. They're not going to say just for one day, and they're going to say what's his intention. He wants to be a dictator. That's what he wants to be. So it's going to play to their audience. That's what I'm saying when he says things like that. I would say don't say something like that. Okay, use some other kind of terminology, but he lets it fly, so to speak. Go ahead.
I did find the name of at least a company. It's called BYD. I'm not sure what that stands for. This article,
Bring your own
CBT
drinks,
News.
I think. Isn't that what it stands for?
I don't know. It's probably Chinese for something. But this article calls BYD a Tesla rival and one of China's largest automakers. Confirmed plans to build an electric vehicle production plant in Mexico with the primary goal of opening a portal to the U.S. car market. So BYD is the name of this Chinese company.
You know, there's also an eternal argument about free market versus protectionism. You know, in the U.S., we believe in free markets, but then some people believe free markets are hurtful to the American worker and to the American economy. There's always been that tension there on that about all kinds of industries, not just the automobile industry.
The automobile industry in this country does punch above its weight, so to speak, in terms of its past political influence. So there's not really a sneaker industry per se that you know has the kinds of votes that maybe the UAW or the AFL-CIO can try to bring to bear. But the auto industry does. And this is to your earlier point. We do buy a lot of products from China. And we all know you go and you look at the label of where almost anything is produced. My wife blew my mind one time about 5 years ago. She told me she wasn't going to buy. I asked her to get me some salmon. And the place where she was buying the salmon, she said, all they do is sell salmon from China. And I'm not giving any money to China. I don't trust their fish. And I said, salmon from China? What are you talking about? So, it was Sam's Club. So the last time, the next time we went, she showed me all the salmon was shipped from China. And I thought,
that's pretty amazing. You would think it'd spoil.
Well, I'm sure it's frozen.
I know,
solid. But to the point, if you're getting salmon from China,
right?
Just about everything.
And there's no hope for our country if we're getting salmon. We're also getting catfish from Vietnam.
Yeah. What's wrong with good old American catfish?
Anyway, I know that I didn't realize you get salmon from.
Well, you guys ever watch Deadliest Catch?
Yeah.
You know,
you talking about the guys in Alaska?
Guys in Alaska, but many times they show these fishermen on Deadliest Catch. They know where the line is, the Chinese fishing waters, and they set their nets right up close to that line because the Chinese fishing vessels are just on that other side. They're all after the same fish.
Right.
Salmon doesn't recognize the state line.
Right.
And so, it doesn't surprise me at all that China, they're catching the same fish.
We went to get some salmon. We were at the beach for family vacation last year, and we were going to grill out one night. Went to get some salmon.
Was it Tommy salmon?
They're red.
Wait, please tell me you didn't eat some of that commie salmon.
Well, just give me a second here. I didn't see any Chinese salmon, but they did have salmon they could have been imported from I think it was Chile, or Chile, one of Peru, one of those South American countries.
I'm good with South America if it comes from South
salmon,
America.
But anyway, they had been imported here, but
next time, just as an experiment,
you
don't want to listen. I know your sons, Wesley and Walker, and they better not find out if you ask the waiter. I'm saying, if you ask the waiter in front of everybody, where's this salmon
coming from?
And if they say China, I know Wesley and Walker are going to say, no, we don't want any of it. So you may have to pull the waiter aside. But as an experiment, say, where does this salmon come from? And if they say it comes from Washington State, or it comes from Alaska, or it comes from British Columbia, then you're good.
Well, I think that, I think we wanted to spend 10 minutes of our show talking about where salmon comes from. But I think most of it's either farmed. Do you believe that?
Salmon?
Salmon is farmed.
It's not as good as the wild caught.
No.
Or you get the wild. They'll have to advertise it as wild.
Yeah. And they do.
Yeah,
wild
like
caught.
Salmon from the Atlantic Ocean or something like that, or
Pacific.
from the well, it's supposed to be. I mean, I switched over pretty much. I used to eat steak all the time. Then I was
salmon's
told,
good for you.
Yeah, I was told salmon's better for your cholesterol.
It's good. I love salmon.
Yeah.
My wife doesn't like it, and
you check where yours comes from? You said she's not buying.
She does. Yeah, she will not buy it.
American made.
Now it's not because it's commie salmon. It's because she thinks that they don't have the standards of health and safety
that we do here in the U.S.
Yeah, we're starting to get far-fetched now. I know.
All right. Well, maybe somebody benefited from that conversation the last 5
There were
or 7
people out
minutes.
there listening, shaking their head, nodding their heads. That's right. No commie.
Does it really
no commie
matter
salmon.
where you get your omega-3 from, people? Does it really matter? In the end? Does your heart care? I don't think so. All right, we'll be back momentarily with more of Fishing Today with Tim, Ed, and Fred. Stay with us.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
So I found a dress for the party. Awesome. Not really. I went to try it on, but Emma, there was a man in there. A man? I told customer service, but they said it's our policy. What?
Target allows men into women's restrooms and changing areas. The American Family Association is calling for a boycott of Target until they reverse this misguided policy. Sign the pledge at afa.net.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. The Supreme Court hears oral arguments in a case to decide if the government crossed a line by pressuring social media companies to remove user content they disagreed with. Lydia Hu has more.
It was brought by attorneys generals for Missouri and Louisiana, and the states in this case accused the Biden administration of pressuring social media companies to suppress speech about COVID and vaccines that the government did not like, and the states say it violates First Amendment protections. The states point to internal federal government emails showing officials demanding removal of certain posts and accounts, also White House officials suggesting that social media companies should be held liable when publishing so-called misinformation. Two lower courts have already agreed with the states. They found the federal government appears to have violated First Amendment protections.
Fani Willis could face an appeal over the decision to allow her to continue prosecuting Donald Trump in his Georgia election interference case. Willis, the Fulton County District Attorney, was handed a win last week amid her prosecution of the former president and 18 others accused in a 41-count indictment of trying to overturn the 2020 election loss in Georgia. Fox News analyst Greg Jarrett says this may not be over for Fani Willis.
She's also facing at least 3 other investigations into misconduct. And surely there's going to be a bar review as to whether she should be suspended or lose her license. In the other investigation, she could actually be removed from office.
A Tea Party leader says he is not concerned about what he describes as a dirty trick aimed at hurting the Donald Trump-endorsed Senate candidate in Ohio. Chad Groening has more.
Ohio Republicans hope that Trump-endorsed Bernie Moreno will be the one who finally ends the career of far-left Democrat Sherrod Brown, who is out of touch with an Ohio that is no longer a swing state. Recently, the Associated Press reported that someone with access to a Moreno work email account created a profile in late 2008 on an adult website. But after further review, AP confirmed that a former intern for Moreno said he created the profile as a prank. Tom Zawistowski is president of the Tea Party affiliated We the People Convention. He says this is a non-story.
It's not going to be problematic at all because we all know that most of the stuff like this is total lies. And Breitbart News just did a total debunking of it. And the person that actually did that was an intern for Moreno at some place where he was working. And basically, he has admitted that he did it. So it's a non-story, but it's a dirty trick.
Zawistowski says there is a reason the left is desperate right now.
It's real simple. Donald Trump endorsed Bernie Moreno because Bernie Moreno is going to vote for MAGA to make America great again and to implement our America First agenda.
I'm Chad Groening.
They held out for 11 days, but the last 2 Dartmouth students on a hunger strike in support of Hamas finally were forced to end it or potentially die. Bob Kellogg has more.
Campus Reform reports the hunger strike was supposed to force the school to cut ties with Israel, call for a ceasefire, and to reevaluate the school's academic exchange with Israeli universities. John Schweppe of the American Principles Project says this is an example of wokeism.
So this is, almost a cult-like devotion to this ideology, and I think especially since this woke progressivism seems to be comfortable with violence to achieving their political ends, I think this is only going to get worse.
He thinks college students lack the knowledge and experience to really understand why they are protesting.
This is what wokeism teaches kids. The highest virtue is protesting over an issue you don't totally understand and showing making emotional arguments as opposed to logical ones or reasoned ones or factual arguments.
Schweppe observes that these bizarre protests will not stop because this is so critical to how radical students view the world. I'm Bob Kellogg.
Stocks are rising today ahead of a busy week for central banks around the world that could dictate where interest rates go. More news online at afn.net and download the AFN mobile app for your Apple or Android device. I'm Rusty Pugh.
American Family Studios was started back in 2011 as a way to advance the Christian worldview into an increasingly media-rich culture.
Media is like such a powerful tool to communicate the gospel. I love writing stories, getting in my office, and just thinking, how can we portray this concept of who God's character is? And to get to use the gifts that God has given me is really a joy.
AmericanFamilyStudios.net. Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildman, president of the American Family Association.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Today's Issues on American Family Radio. Just had a nice couple from Michigan stop by to see us. The Grand Rapids area. We have a radio station near Grand Rapids. What town is there? Do you know what town our station's? Muskegon, yeah, Muskegon, which is not too far from Grand Rapids. Anyway, Tim Wildman here with Ed Vitagliano and Steve Paisley-Jordahl.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning, Brother Steve. Anyway, they the couple there, they're traveling. They say they pick out a state every so often and just
like
explore it.
Throw a dart at a map and head there?
They said they went to Alabama last year.
Okay.
And I said, well, so y'all went to the Space Center in Huntsville, and they said, no, we went straight to the beach.
Oh.
And they explored the beach.
From Michigan.
In Alabama.
Well, yeah. The beach in Alabama is a lot warmer than the beach in Michigan.
Yeah. So anyway, they're traveling the Natchez Trace Parkway.
Oh,
here, in Mississippi. So Mississippi's their state now.
I always thought that was interesting to me because when I was looking at coming here to get a job, I didn't know anything about Tupelo, right? So I look up what are the best, the top things to do in Tupelo. Of course, number one was Elvis's birthplace and everything. So that's number one. But you know what number two was? Number two was the Natchez Trace Parkway, the number two tourist
The Natchez Trace Parkway.
And so I was thinking, okay, so the number two tourist attraction to Tupelo is a road out of town. I'm not so sure that's
or
a recommendation.
Into town, one
True,
or the other.
But still.
For those who don't know, there's a federal parkway that runs from Nashville to Natchez, Mississippi, Nashville, Tennessee. And so it's a 2-lane highway. It's, for the scenery, right? But the problem is they got a 50-mile-an-hour speed limit on there.
Yes, and that is a problem.
You can probably do 55 without getting too much,
And
but that's it.
I have a personal conviction against that, against obeying that law.
Yeah.
I think it's an arbitrary federal government law.
Right.
That
what? Arbitrary? You
arbitrary.
mean it doesn't make any sense? And
no,
yet it's a law?
No. I'll just tell you this: you better obey the law.
Yes.
Yeah.
On a federal parkway, you want to see a ticket? You get a ticket. Going 10 miles over, it's going to be, I don't know, it's going to be $300 or something like that.
And very few people get away with. In other words,
there's no appeal.
Although I did. One time I got a warning.
You got
on
a
the
warning?
Natchez Trace Parkway.
Well, that's because the park ranger was feeling generous.
I think he was a listener.
Okay.
I can't prove it, but I was driving to work and got behind a couple of pickups, and they suddenly slowed down. Okay, and stupid Ed thought, "What are you guys doing?" And I passed them, and then I saw why they slowed down. There was a park ranger sitting up the road, and he lit me up. And he pulled behind me, and he asked me. He said, I clocked you doing whatever it was, and he said, why were you going so fast? And I said, well, and I told him the truth. I said I was behind those two pickups, and they suddenly slowed down, and I thought, what in the world? What are you guys doing? And I passed them, and then I saw the reason, and the reason was you. And he smiled. He smiled at that, and he took my name, and I think he must have been a listener because he pronounced my name correctly.
So
he
what
said, Mr. Vitagliano, he said, please slow down.
So what you're saying is you're leveraging your work for God at this ministry.
I
in
did
order
not
to get away with
I didn't leverage.
illegal stuff.
I didn't even mention it.
He didn't try to get off.
I didn't try to get off. In fact, I thought my
it's just the grace of
We'll let
the
it pass
park
this
ranger.
time.
It's the grace of God. Thank you
Right.
for suggesting otherwise,
The
Steve.
grace of God and the police officer.
Yeah. If you're listening, sir, I salute you.
That's right.
Thank you.
Well, he nailed Abe. So
he got Brent. One of them got Brent before.
One of 'em
for
got
not,
Brent.
Now, Brent was deserved.
Okay, Brent.
He didn't use his blinker.
Brent Creeley, our producer, step to the microphone. Then we'll move on here. So you got nailed on the Natchez Trace Federal Parkway for going how fast?
Which time?
Oh, wow.
Well.
No,
Okay.
I did get a speeding ticket once.
For what? Can I just go ahead? It's okay. We're not. Nobody's judging.
We spent time talking about
we're
salmon last segment.
So how fast were you going?
64.
64 and a 50?
Yes, sir.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. Did you have to pay? Did he give you a ticket?
Oh yeah, yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Did you have to
Yes.
pay it?
Yes, sir.
How much was it?
Yes, sir. It was like 220.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
It was
They
like
don't-
200.
You also got one for not
And then-
using your blinker to get off the trace.
Correct.
And the guy I was teasing about, you deserved it.
And that was the blinker ticket was more expensive than the
Really?
speeding ticket. Yes,
Listen,
sir.
I've been riding with people from work as we were driving to Nashville one time, and as soon as we got on the trace, you get on and he's just speeding up, and he got pulled over and got a ticket.
Well-
I'll tell you, they are mega strict.
Yes, sir.
50 miles an hour. Oof, that's just. I don't know. That's just.
It goes on forever.
That's just not American, in my opinion. All right, Steve, what kind of shirt you donning today?
Today is a music shirt. So I'm heading to Oxford tonight because tomorrow morning is my knee replacement, and I just needed to dress somewhere where I could just do things without having to worry about clothes.
You getting that knee at Walmart, Sam's?
I don't know where the doctor.
Where do they replace those?
Is it made in China? Because that's what we need to know.
I don't know where it's made. All I know is that after the surgery, or whenever I walk, I'm going to hear.
The $6 million man. You have been in a lot of pain for a long time.
How long
I'm
has that
ready.
knee? How long has that knee been bothering you there?
Since 1984, when I heard it.
Playing basketball or what?
Well, my right knee was skiing. My left knee was football.
Oh, so both sports. Or otherwise, you'd have been an Olympic athlete.
I would have been. I could have been a contender.
As long
Not
as
for
you
the
didn't get
knees. Not for the knees.
As long as you didn't get it, hurt your knee going to Dunkin' Donuts or
The
something.
knees and the lung capacity and the muscle mass, all of that kind of conspired against me, but I'm going with the knees.
Hey, in all seriousness, I would ask our listeners to lift up Brother Steve
Yes,
for this
thank
knee
you.
replacement because my wife Allison went through with this a year and a half ago or so, and it's not easy.
No.
Right.
It's a several months of recovery.
Right.
But now, is she happy she did it?
Yes.
That's
But
all
at the
time
time,
right
you're
here.
going, "Why did I do this to myself?"
I know.
But over time, your knee is like a new knee,
Yeah.
and you're just like you're not limping around like
in pain.
In pain. I mean,
Yeah.
it's one of those bite the bullets.
Right.
Do it. All right, you're listening to today's issues on American Family Radio. First story, Steve.
All right. If we say that our mainstream media is clueless, sometimes we think we're just kind of using a word that means that they're liberal or biased or whatever. But no, I want to tell you that Don Lemon is literally clueless. I'm going to play. I just came across this. I'm going to play you. Don Lemon was sitting down with
He's
Elon Musk.
He's a former CNN guy.
Former CNN guy just got, he was going to start a channel with Musk and then got kind of kicked off, but kind of not. But anyway, this is an interview that he has with
on
Elon
X?
Musk. It's on X. It was on X.
Okay.
And the topic was DEI in medical schools and lowering the standards to let people be doctors. And Musk says that's dangerous. People are going to die. Listen to this. Cut 11.
I believe that if we lower the standards for what it takes to become a doctor.
You're saying if we lower the standards,
Yes.
but do you believe people are dying because the standards are being lowered?
I don't
Or have
think
been
that is
lowered?
yet an issue, but it could become an issue.
Okay. But the actual evidence in history shows the exact opposite. If you look at how minorities are treated by the medical system, most doctors now are white. And there are lots of mistakes in medicine. So you're saying that my doctors have bad medical care? I'm trying to understand your logic here when it comes to DEI, because there's no actual evidence of what you're saying.
No, I said, so if the standards, like let's say, I think that particular thing was referring to surgeons. Let's say a surgeon is asked to, a surgeon in training is asked to do a series of operations under the supervision of a senior surgeon, and they get a bunch of those operations wrong. If that happens, and yet they are still approved to be a surgeon, the probability that someone will die, I think, at some point is high.
Okay, I understand that, but that's a hypothetical. That doesn't mean it's happening.
I didn't say it's happening.
You didn't say it was happening.
I said it will. I said if we lower standards, people will die.
But why respond to something or put something out there that has not happened? Because I could say,
because I don't want it to happen. I think we don't want to lower standards.
That was Elon Musk talking to Don Lemon.
Yes.
And you know what? I don't think they're going to be Simon and Garfunkel anytime soon.
Well, he got fired, didn't he?
Well, maybe they will in their separation. But
yeah.
Okay, so Don Lemon, who was challenging Elon Musk right there on diversity,
equity, and inclusion.
Inclusion.
In medicine.
In medicine. He was supposed to have a show on X, which is owned by Elon Musk. But after that interview, Elon Musk said no, not offering that any longer.
I don't know that was specifically the reason, but that was in.
Well, it happened at the same. It happened
yeah,
like the
but I
day
mean,
after.
there might have been any number of disagreements.
Well,
but yeah.
Listen, the point Elon Musk is making is a valid one, and that is you don't want diversity, diversity, equality, and inclusion. Equity. That's what they call it. To be the guiding principle for medical school.
Right.
That's what he's saying. These people are dealing with your lives. You don't want to have somebody brought up and be able to get away with lower scores or professionalism because of their ethnicity, for example. And by the same token, you wouldn't want somebody elevated because of their ethnicity. I think that's all that Elon Musk is saying. It should be objective across the board, the standards for medical school.
Lemon didn't even understand the question.
No.
I don't know why that was controversial to Don Lemon. This is just a matter of logic. What Elon Musk was saying, if you lower the standards, I don't care who you're putting in.
Right.
If you're lowering the standards in order to insert another category as being more important than the standard of practice that you used to have, you're going to degrade medical care, and in that context, people will die or get seriously harmed by it. I don't know why I don't think Elon Musk was saying no. We should only have white surgeons, or white doctors,
right? It was the same way with pilots. Remember that about a month ago? They started talking about putting DEI in for pilots training, and people are going, these people fly and safety and professionalism should be at the top of the agenda, and when they go to school and they're tested, not whether they're brown or yellow or white or red or whatever. That should have nothing to do with whether they're able to fly a plane or not.
But Tim, most pilots are white, and we still have plane crashes. So are you saying that white pilots don't give good flight service? Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly the reasoning that Don Lemon was using. Listen, the old way of looking at this was equality versus this new DEI, okay?
Equality versus equity. What is the
Yes,
difference?
equality versus equity. So under equality, you would say, listen, if you have 100 candidates and they're all equally qualified, okay, there's nothing wrong with saying, well, let's try getting some black or Hispanic or Asian people into the program.
Get Eskimos.
So that, yes.
I mean,
so that we
Eskimos
can,
are often left out of the whole conversation. I wanted to.
It's true.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And so you want to give everyone an equal chance at the position. DEI says, and this is what Don Lemon was arguing, it doesn't matter if the person's qualified. The first thing we're going to look at is, are they white or non-white? And if they're non-white, they get the first crack, even if they're less qualified.
Equity. I'm sorry.
They want to force it.
Yeah. Equity means equality. Means
Quotas.
Equality means that everybody has the same opportunity.
Yeah.
Right.
You can apply for medical school. Anybody can apply, and you have depending on we'll let you in regardless of color.
Right.
Everybody's the same. Equity means that you have to have half of the people be black and the rest be Hispanic, and that's no matter what the scores are. That's equity.
Right.
In any school of study, if you could prove to me that people are being systematically denied entry because of their ethnicity, then I'm willing to listen to you, because that's wrong.
Right.
And I think everybody in America agrees that that's wrong. But if you're going to tell me that you must, a particular school must allow for 20% or 30% or whatever, or 50% of their students to be, quote, people of color, just because, then that is going to lead to a deterioration of quality over time, because that shouldn't be the basis of allowing people into a given school or not. Same way, listen, I know we've used this before, but think about this. What if we had a diversity, equity, and inclusion for professional sports in America?
Mm-hmm.
So we would say, okay, NBA, you got to look like America.
Right.
All right. So we need 60% of you to be white and 13% to be African American, and we need 18% to be Hispanic.
How many Eskimos?
Eskimos are going to be 1 or 2%. Now, Eskimos usually are height challenged, so you probably got to
Doesn't matter with equity.
Well, that is true.
That's true.
That is true.
And
whether they can dribble or not,
right,
doesn't matter either. So that's kind of insanity we're talking about here.
Exactly.
Huh?
And it's not unreasonable to say, if you're Elon Musk, if the NBA did that, the quality's going to drop.
All of a sudden,
everybody
you have the
knows
WNBA, right?
Oh man.
So I would say, an NBA, the professional sports, is a great example of what we're talking about here. It's a living example, because the cream rises to the top. Doesn't matter what color the cream is. And in Major League Baseball, for example, I'm just guessing here, observing, probably 30% of the Major League Baseball, maybe more, is made up of Hispanic or people Latino. And so we don't. Does anybody go, no, we need more white people or more black people in baseball? No, we go, we need the best players.
Right.
Okay, how do you prove who the best players are? Well, let them bat.
Right.
Let them field. Let them pitch. Let's see who the best pitcher is. Who gets the most outs? We don't care what. Does any fan of any team go, you know what? I just am not going to any more games unless I see some more Japanese guys on my team.
Right.
Huh? No. You go. You say, who's the best pitcher, hitting, fielding, throwing, whatever the case may be. So we don't apply this DEI standard to professional sports. So that's if I was Elon Musk, to me right there on that interview sounded kind of dumbfounded by here Don Lemon is saying, I don't understand your logic, and if I'm Elon Musk, I'm going, I don't even understand what you're talking about. Right. Your questions.
And as a result, you're not going to be on X.
Because I own it.
Apparently, there was also some questions Lemon asked Musk about his.
It was a longer interview.
Ketamine use. I'm not sure what that is all about in terms of Elon Musk, but I guess anyway. The point is, he's gone, and Don Lemon was fired, and couldn't happen to a better guy.
He was fired before he was hired.
Yeah.
Hard to do.
Huh? You like the way I rhymed there?
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah. I rhymed in time.
Mm-hmm.
See what I did there? Did it
Did.
twice.
I do want to make mention of the fact that I understood what you were doing in terms of your allegory.
Yeah.
But the color of the cream does matter. We're talking cream. I don't want green cream. I'm just
Even
saying.
on St. Patrick's Day?
Even on St. Patrick's Day.
All right, Steve, next story.
All right. Listen, we are flirting with disaster.
Are we?
At the border.
Again?
Yes. We are flirting with disaster at the border. So we know that there are roughly 2 million, 3 million illegals a year that cross into
Under Biden.
Under Biden. And we just found one of them. We picked up a guy. He's a Lebanese migrant, and he was caught sneaking over the border. And when he was caught, says, "What are you doing here?" He says, "I'm trying to make a bomb." What? Yeah, I'm a member of Hezbollah. I'm headed to New York City. I'm going to make a bomb. And now, the guy is stupid enough to admit this, but that's what he said. So,
well, he was hoping to get in under the DEI.
I must have been, yeah. I mean, that's what they're doing at the border. But if we just happen to randomly pick up a guy who says he's going, what are the odds that out of that 3 million people, there's one or two more that want to do harm to us?
We are going to find out.
And this is why I'm saying we're flirting with disaster.
Well, I'll tell you what yes, that is a real story Steve just read, folks. You have a man who was detained, arrested at the border. We find out he's from Lebanon. He's a part of Hezbollah, which is a terrorist group that attacks Israel from the north. He's over here. He says he wants to go to New York and he was going to build a bomb. I mean, he's proud of himself. Like you, I'm kind of stunned that he would admit something like this. But we did catch him. But how many have come over the border that we haven't caught? And I think what's more likely to happen, and we're going to see this more and more, probably on a daily, if not weekly basis, these people that have come over our southern border because Biden is welcoming in the world, a lot of these people are criminals. They're gang members. Venezuela has basically said we're sending we're opening up the prisons and sending them all to the U.S. They basically said that. You got these Mexican drug cartels which are ruthless. I mean, and they are prominent now. The
right.
What do you call them? The
16. Is it MS-13?
MS-13. So you've got now Haiti, the Haitians. You know, we're going to have a lot of people coming here from Haiti. I mean,
you know, President Trump said the same thing back in 2016, and that was the genesis of everybody saying he hates migrants. He said that they're not sending their best, so obviously he hates migrants.
And it doesn't matter if the majority of people coming across that border are not criminals, if they're just ordinary people trying to have a better life. If they're, I mentioned this last week, if it's true that 7 million people have come over that southern border illegally since Joe Biden took office, even if 1% of that number are criminals, gang members, that's 70,000 people.
Yeah.
If it's 10%, that's 700,000 people. And that's a lot of ne'er-do-wells. That's a lot of criminals, a lot of drug cartel members, a lot of rapists, a lot of terrorists. They could do significant damage to this country. Well, we're talking about knocking out power grids, poisoning water supply, shooting up at malls. I mean, it could throw this country into chaos.
Can I say before we have breaking news here, just real quickly, breaking news from our most trusted news source, the Babylon Bee. The media is up in arms again about President Trump because they're reporting that President Trump is threatening nuclear war because he says this guacamole's the bomb.
Oh. That's a play on what the media did over his bloodbath comments. Hey,
I've
Steve,
had some guacamole that is the bomb, metaphorically speaking.
Metaphorically speaking.
Then I've had some Mexican food that bombed in other ways.
Yes.
Huh?
Hey, folks,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, please pray for Steve for his surgery tomorrow and his recovery.
How long are you out for as far as this show goes?
We're going to see if we can come
Yet
back.
to be determined?
After Easter in 2 weeks. Yeah, it's to be determined. But if I can,
all right, brother.
See if I can limp back in here.
We'll pray for you.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Spiritual Heritage Tour